Clemson is South Carolina architecture.
This building sets a new bar. We see a great example of how to do really great architecture.
It's a smart building. It's sending all the right clues for those that are in it and being inspired by it, and those maybe on campus that aren't part of the architecture program that see it as the latest, greatest statement about building on campus.
What a way to work, to be able to just look down and see what the landscape students are modeling and drawing, seeing what the art students are modeling and drawing, getting some new forms, some new thoughts, a new model. It's like a big studio, big workshop.
I think it's more integrated among the disciplines. I mean, when we were in architecture studio back in the 80s, I mean, you were with the architects. And I think with Lee 3 and you got the building science studios and the art studios down there, I think there's a lot more interaction among the disciplines. More of a humanities-based approach to, you know, how the education process is going.
Internationally, Clemson certainly wasn't the first to start a European program, but certainly one of the early pioneers. And the fact that we purchased a villa in Genoa 40 years ago certainly was one of the pioneers of that time and instrumental in sort of setting a pattern for that type of study.
First thing Harlan McClure did when he came to Clemson in 1955 was organize the Clemson Architectural Foundation. He got enough money through the CAF to have a library, a real significant library. I mean, he probably tripled the size of the architectural library, which was housed in the School of Architecture. One of the byproducts of that early on, and I think the real reason he started it, was to gain enough power in the state to be separated from the engineering school. When he first came to Clemson, architecture was a department in the School of Engineering, and he didn't like that.
The initial building of Lee Hall 1 was McClure's idea of a faculty of various disciplines teaching architecture and construction.
He brought a level of scholarship, sophistication, a kind of international awareness, professionalism, and primarily an insistence on design and architecture being of the highest caliber. And he, in a sense, infected the state with that. When he was doing his tenure, I think he raised the discourse about architecture and the practice of architecture immeasurably in this state.
And let's say this person grew up in New York City or Detroit, their whole understanding of the complexity of urbanism and social activity and integration of cultures, all that. You grew up with that, right? The folks in the Southeast, and mostly in the United States, I mean, Nebraska's the same way, rural backgrounds. So McClure said, we have to expose these students to a more worldly understanding. And so his philosophy was, we got to do the Geneva program. And that's why practically every school of architecture in the United States has an overseas program.
The architects on Hilton have always been interested in the AIA, and I think that interest came through Clemson because as a student you could see what the AIA was doing for the profession of architecture.
We're very fortunate in South Carolina to have one AIA and one School of Architecture. And it's a perfect ground for experimentation, for research, for collaboration. Even if you didn't go to school at Clemson, it is your connection to academia here. And there's a great relationship between the college and AIA, which may not occur in other sections where they have several several schools of architecture.
Well, the AIA always supported students and student trips and things of that nature. They gave money to the students and gave money to the Clemson Architectural Foundation, and we appreciated that as students, and we followed through as we came into the profession.
I would describe Clemson when I was there, and I think now, as a very nurturing place. I'm not sure that I had all the answers when I started. I might have thought I did, but I think in many respects, maybe there was some raw talent. There certainly was a lot of rawness to me, you know. And I look back and realize the professors that I still know today, that again I talk to regularly, are professors that spent time. They didn't just see your work and say, that's not the answer, move to the guy that was perhaps the rock star student. They saw potential in some manner.
Since being done with AIA National Leadership, I'm now co-director of the International Union of Architects Education Commission. I was there in October. Had a meeting with I was in Paris, had a meeting with the Ministry of Culture of France for various reasons. Meet this 40-something-year-old Parisian woman, and she didn't have cards with her. I gave her my card, and she said, "Oh, I went to Clemson." I said,